Here's the rapid fire. Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Love is Blind or The Bachelor?
Oh, my ex is on The Bachelor right now. Love is Blind.
We need to talk about that shortly. Well, what's going on, everyone? We've got Matt Rossi in the house today. What's going on, Matt?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming out. I'm going to give you a little intro to set the table for this podcast here, but let's kick it off. So Matt Rossi is an experienced brand marketer with a demonstrated history of working in the food and beverages industry. He spent the last 4 years working for Boston Beer Company, currently operating as brand manager for Truly Hard Seltzer. And in the last year, he's built a dedicated following across social media for his creative and humorous lifestyle content, which often features his very cute and humorous dog, Kirkland. I personally see Matt's videos all the time on TikTok. I actually saw them before we even met in person. They're great. I'm always watching the whole thing through. And a little fun fact as well, you're a Michigan alum. Gotta say go blue. Have a lot of Michigan friends.
Yeah,
so
good.
Big shout out
to
there.
Hear it.
So how's it going, man? Welcome to the show.
Oh, it's going good. Thanks for having me. I think when we talked, I had told you that I've never gone on a podcast. I have to be honest, I did have one pop up this weekend. So this is my first virtual podcast. So I'm still trying to make it special, but still new. So if anything, I got out the kinks. So you're gonna get the more polished version of me. So.
You know what? It's totally fine. I saw it pop up on my feed and I was like, oh my God, Matt, he told me I was the first. And there he is on someone else's podcast. No, but yeah. I'm glad you worked out the kinks and we're ready to go for this. And honestly, Who knows? This is going to come out in a couple weeks, so you may have already gone on more. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, I don't have any slated, so I'm trying to stay a little loyal, not get too promiscuous when it comes to the podcast scene. But we'll see. I'm really just starting to kind of meet others and break into it, and it's been fun. So.
Good, man. Yeah. Well, you're making it all happen, and I want to kind of go through your backstory up until now, because right now things are huge for you. They're really getting big. We met a couple weeks ago at a ski weekend, and we got the chance to kind of talk a little bit, and I felt like we had a really cool conversation going that I'd love to just kind of continue here. But to get to that point, I want to talk a little bit about how things began for you and kind of jump back even to when you were a kid. Do you remember when you were younger, was there like a dream job you had? When people ask you, what do you want to do when you grow up? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, I had a few, I'd say. I think when I was a kid, so I grew up in a little bit of a non-traditional kind of home setup, in the sense that like both my parents were both from Italy. They had immigrated here, and I was, grew up outside of Boston and was kind of the only one whose parents like didn't go to college, and like both kind of moved here, started their own businesses, were entrepreneurs. So when it came to looking as a kid to like what I wanted to be, it wasn't as traditional as maybe like a doctor or, a lawyer that a lot of my peers had their parents, professions as. And for me, I just knew that whatever it was, I wanted it to kind of be my own or be entrepreneurial. So like I always changed my mind about what I wanted to do. And I'd say that's probably something that has stuck with me. I don't think you ever really know what you want to do when you grow up. I'm 28 years old. And if you ask me what I want to be when I grow up, I still couldn't answer. But yeah, I think I've always considered myself like a builder. Like I really do love to build things from scratch, or at least take something that's half built and maybe like build it. Like obviously I loved Legos and Bionicles. So I'd say like I didn't have a particular dream job. I just knew that whatever it was, like I kind of wanted to have ownership and be able to like contribute and build and kind of look to my parents for inspiration. In kind of an entrepreneur world.
And did you have siblings, or do you have siblings?
Yeah, so I grew up with an older sister. She is about 2 years older than me. It's just the two of us. I think when you look at her yearbook in kindergarten, she said when she wanted to grow up, she wanted to be a fire truck, not a firefighter. She wanted to be the truck. So, pretty honorable cause, I'd say.
Sure. What did she go on to do?
She's in real estate, so
Okay,
not
sure.
necessarily. She actually works with my dad. So my dad, when he moved here, his family started an Italian restaurant up in New Hampshire. It actually just celebrated
Nice.
their 40th year
Wow, congrats.
in business. Yeah, I don't know, big there. So Rossi's Italian Ristorante, if you're ever up in New Hampshire. So he like worked there, and then on the side, like again, wasn't in college, started to kind of get into real estate. It was something that you didn't need a college education for at the time. He had interest in it. He would do agency stuff, but then slowly started to like buy property and like himself go and flip it, like and think like there wasn't YouTube at the time. Like you didn't know how to, like, you couldn't just like Google how to put up drywall. Like he had to like actually figure it out on his own, and then just like slowly started flipping houses while also being like an agent, started a brokerage, and then, you know, fast forward 25 years now, does development and runs a brokerage that now my sister is a part of on the sales side. So yeah, so really cool, really inspiring. My mom's a hairdresser, also, you know, a successful entrepreneur. She has a hair salon there.
So clearly your family shares the same entrepreneurial drive that you have, and clearly that's been passed down to you. I love that you have an older sister. I have two older sisters. Huge inspiration.
Yes.
I think older sisters are the best. But you know, so you're growing up in this family. Your parents came over here, fought through the odds, start their business, get going. Your dad's kind of learning how to basically get into his own business, and like you said, no YouTube. It's not easy to kind of figure these things out then. So he's making that happen. So you clearly have this drive and some inspiration from them. So as you get older and it's time for college, how does that kind of inform your choice to, one, go to Michigan, and then two, what is it that you studied there that kind of started your trajectory into adulthood?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I think I was looking at a few different options. I think engineering was one thing. Like I always found myself being both like analytical and creative, which I think if you like kind of look at my parents, is funny because my mom's a hairdresser. It's a pretty creative field, and my dad's a little bit more on the analytical side. So I think took both. So like engineering is a great example of that. Like there's a level of creativity involved in creating something new, designing something, whether it's structural, whatever. But then like having the analytical piece as well. Business is another way that you can kind of flex both sides of the brain there with creativity and an analytical mind. So I kind of had identified those two. I think when it came down to it, like I felt like business was a little bit more broad, that like even if I didn't know what I was doing, like I wasn't I guess pigeonholed into like an engineering track. Like that felt like it got a little bit more siloed quickly. And like at the time, you know, I was a kid, I was like, I want to make money, like business makes money. So like
Yep.
I ended up, pursuing business. I didn't really have any guidance. Like I didn't have parents to look to that had gone to college or through the college process. My sister did go to college, but stayed a little bit more local to the Boston area. She was actually in New Hampshire. And so like I didn't have a ton of guidance, so I was a little on my own. I looked to friends and like where my friends' parents went. And I did have college counselors that like my school provided. Like luckily my school did have great resources for college. So I definitely took advantage of them. I identified a few different schools, and Michigan was one of them. Obviously, like they have a pretty strong undergraduate business program. I didn't actually get in right away. So the way it works is you go to the school and then apply your freshman year. So like I kind of took a gamble going when I went. Like it was a kind of a risk reward thing where, you know, I knew I would have to work my ass off when I went freshman year to like get into the business school. But like that potential upside was big. And I was like, well, I guess I could also always transfer. So that's the path I took. I actually, this is a funny story. When I was in business school starting to do recruiting, like I thought I wanted to do finance, maybe like real estate related to like what my dad did, but at, you know, another level. If he could if he could bring me the access to go to like college, then I could then give back by like learning at a higher level and bring it back. That was kind of like my thought process. what ended up happening was I walked into the wrong room during like a recruiting event, and it was a Pepsi brand management presentation, and I felt rude leaving. So I was like, I didn't want to be the guy to get up and walk out. And they were talking about Super Bowl, and they were talking about like all of the programming around it. And I was like, all right, wait, this actually kind of sounds a little badass. Like, and as they were describing it more, they're like, brand management, yes, it is marketing. However, like, marketing is owning a brand within a larger company. Like, you're working with supply chain, you're working with insights teams, you're working with sales, you're working with product development, R&D. Like, you're the hub of the wheel that is the kind of brand in the business. And it's really was that entrepreneur. There were elements of creativity. There were elements that required more analytical thinking. And honestly, like, the people that I met were just a lot easier to talk to than the finance people.
Yeah. Well, there's a level of creativity there, which is what you said you wanted, not just the analytical, which you might find in the finance world, but more the creative marketing side of it all. Do you remember when you walked into that room? Obviously, your first thought was, oh, shit, this is the wrong room. And then do you remember like a bell going off or a light going off in your head where you were like, oh, this is a career choice?
Yeah, well, I think like when they put up, well, first they get you with the sizzle, like the intro thing. It's like a Beyonce, like at the Super Bowl, I don't even know, like some big star that they have like headlining Super Bowl. So then I was hooked. And then they put up that wheel figure where it was like, this is brand management, and like it sits at the middle of every other function at the company. And I was like, well, that's actually more of what I want to do. Like, do I really want to go deep into like finance, like, or do I want to understand finance enough to work with them, but like not be exclusively pigeonholed to finance? I think like a recurring thing you'll hear with me is like, I hate being like siloed or like pigeonholed. So like, I think I am more of a generalist, but it's because I kind of get bored quickly. I have ADHD. I need like the next thing. Like I'm super, I need to be stimulated at all times. So
I get it. I totally get it. So let me kind of carry on from that point. How do you then get a job at PepsiCo from walking into this room by mistake? You're at school. Suddenly you jump forward. We know that you get a job at PepsiCo, but how does that happen?
Yeah, so I just like met a lot of people. Like they had recruiting events. They encouraged me to submit my resume. I still interviewed for all the finance stuff. I got like a few jobs in finance, and then like I just remember being excited, and it felt easy. And the conversations that I was having during the interviews just like didn't feel like an interview. Like it all just felt super genuine. And then I got the offer. It was in New York. I was going abroad in Italy, so kind of this was my like first semester of my junior year, like having the ability to like go abroad and then come back and move to New York City was like,
that's sweet.
Like this is awesome. Like some of the finance ones were in Chicago, which was also great, but like, I'm from the East Coast, like New York is more accessible to Boston. Like, again, going to college was my first time away from home. So like being in the Midwest, like felt far. So like being, thinking longer term, like, okay, after graduation, New York would just be easier to get back to Boston, see my family. So I did the internship. I got put on the Mountain Dew brand, which was like, they give you the cool stuff when you're an intern because they're trying to sell you too. I was on like the culture team. So that managed like the NBA partnership, music, gaming, like really all of the cool cultural touch points that you see Mountain Dew activating within. So like it would be a Wednesday night and we were going to like a pop-up concert in Soho to find like new artists with Sodi music, and I was like, this is badass. So long story short, I worked my ass off to get the return offer. I did, and then I went back full-time, rejoined Mountain Dew in like a rotational program. So every year they it was kind of like a 2/3 of a year, they'd like rotate us to get exposure to different parts of brand management, because there's more innovation focused roles, which is like more product development, new flavors, new packs. Then there's like very comms focused roles, which is more social media, partnerships, working with like creators, celebrities. And then there's like commercial, which is working with retailers and sales to like actually move product and promote product, like more of the rubber to road.
And just as a kind of clarity question, so all of these different roles fall under brand management within a large scale company. Now, would you only have brand managers at huge companies like Pepsi where there's separate brands off of them, or might you have that even at a small company anywhere?
Totally. Like you have brand managers at small companies. I think like the workload kind of varies. Like, so if you're at a smaller company, like you have probably one or two brand managers doing all of those things. Like they're working to develop a product, they're working with sales to sell it in and commercialize it, and then they're working with like a comms plan to promote it and get the word out. So like that just kind of fuses into one, which is like, you know, when I bring up the entrepreneur piece, like you can kind of see how that all like correlates. It's the same thing as developing a brand and launching it.
I'm excited to talk about how all of this experience guided and informed what you're doing on your own now. But I do want to touch on your time at Boston Beer before that. So what is that transition like? You graduate college, you have this job at Pepsi. It's really cool based on kind of those things you were describing that they took you through during your internship years. And I'm sure your first years working there were really cool. What was the point at which and why did you feel that it was time to make a switch from PepsiCo to Boston Beer?
Yeah, so this really weird thing happened called COVID. And
what's that?
Yeah, it's a distant memory now. No, so it was like around the time COVID happened. I had taken some calls with some other companies. I had been in New York for now 2 years, like 2 years and 3 months, including the internship. And you know, I never thought as myself as like a New Yorker long term. It was a fun experience, but like, again, my family was in Boston, grew up Italian, like missing the Sunday dinners. So I knew I wanted to get back to Boston. It just happened that like, so I was interviewing at Boston Beer. It was for a role on Twisted Tea that was actually like a level that was 2 levels above what I was at Pepsi.
Oh, nice.
So it was like a jump, but granted, smaller company. So like when you ask the question about like, does every company have brand managers? Like at a Pepsi, a Mountain Dew team has like 20 to 30 brand managers.
Right,
like
okay.
a Twisted Tea, when I joined it, had 1. So like it was different. So
it scales based on company size, what they're trying to do with the brands, all of that.
Size of the business. So it was like a reach opportunity, but on like a little bit of a smaller brand. But like I was looking at the numbers and I'm like, this brand's on fire. It's been growing for 20 years. Like I did the trajectory. I was like, if I can get in now, help grow the brand, like that's a win. So this all happened, and then like COVID happened, and like that was the like, all right, I'm going. So like January, it was down to like I had gotten someone to like sign a sublease agreement in New York, and then I jumped in like the world shut down, and I was like, I feel a little bad, but like we were friends, and you know it ended up all being fine. But yeah, like I got out kind of like unscathed with the New York shutdown. Lived at home for a little bit. I mean, I think that was kind of an adjustment, but everyone was living at home, so like it didn't feel weird. And then, you know, just worked, like took on more, learned a lot. Like I think I was able to stretch more than I would have at a Pepsi. Like when I left Pepsi, I was working on Mountain Dew comms within the gaming silo. So like that click down is like kind of insane. And I felt like I was getting away from like the true brand ownership that initially drew me there. So I got to really learn that.
I do think that's something that happens sometimes when you're at a company for a number of years, is you sort of do get pigeonholed into a specific niche that maybe you didn't mean to get into. Maybe you did, but you don't like it at this point. You know, that can happen a lot. And I can see why you might have thought like, hey, this might be time for a change. This gaming niche within Mountain Dew is not I'm not doing all of the things that I want to be doing. So props to you for being willing to make that jump too, because a lot of people would not want to leave a big company like PepsiCo, wouldn't want to leave the comfort of that. So that can't have been an easy time for you to have made that jump.
Yeah. And we'll bookmark this too, because I think it's interesting, because I was working with gamers, which were kind of the original, not original, but one of the original content creators, or at least like some of the biggest. Mm-hmm. So like I was getting like subconscious learnings that then I think, you know, applied down the road.
Totally. Well, and I'm excited because I still want to get to your entrepreneurial stuff, but I do want to hear about your time at at Boston Beer.
Yep.
So you're back home, you're in Boston, you're starting up this new job. You're with Twisted Tea initially. So what is that like? And then how do you make the switch over to Truly?
Yeah, so Twisted Tea when I joined the team was like, if you're from the Boston area, you're probably familiar with it, or at least like the New England area is like where it started. The company Boston Beer owns Sam Adams, Angry Orchard, Truly, Twisted Tea, and Dogfish Head. Those are our like 5 flagship brands. And Twisted Tea was more of a local brand, but it had its pockets where it did well. And like by the time I joined, it was fully national, but like they didn't know what it was out in California. They didn't know what it was in Texas. And it kind of had this bad rep of being kind of a juvenile brand because it was easy to drink. It's iced tea spiked. So like you saw a lot of like college age, we'll call legal drinking age, people like consuming it. And it kind of had this identity kind of problem. So like, but again, it was still growing. Like it's such a good example of just consistent, steady growth. For like it was started in 2001, and
wow.
Like what I call healthy
really?
growth. Yeah, it's never declined. It's never like had 100+ growth years. Now it has, but like in its history, it was just like steadily 15, 20 like stable growth. And I think like we can connect it to the creator industry, but like everyone wants to explode. Everything wants something to happen overnight, and like you hit the jackpot to the moon. Like no, actually, some of the strongest, most like everlasting brands are the ones that had consistent slow growth, and Twisted Tea is a perfect example of that. So then when I joined, it kind of started to accelerate. The seltzer craze exploded. Like we own Truly, we were the number 2 right neck and neck with White Claw. This was before like High Noon really got big, but there was this beyond beer movement happening where people were moving over towards like more pre-made cocktails, especially when the world shut down and you're at home and you're like not going to a bar anymore. Like a seltzer or like a canned cocktail was a treat. Like it was something that like was already made. It was convenient. You didn't need a bartender, but it wasn't just like a beer that you were used to having at home or wine. And Twisted Tea got lumped into that. They like it was seen as, it's not a Long Island iced tea, but it was kind of perceived a little bit more as a cocktail, even though it is malt based and technically brewed like a beer, but it got lumped in. So it was like getting some of the pickup. And then this was 2000 and I want to say like 2021. It was my birthday. I was on vacation in Florida. All of a sudden I get a text saying, it was a link to a meme or a video that had gone viral on the internet, and it was a man taking a Twisted Tea tall boy and smacking a man across the face after he was yelling racial slurs at him in a convenience store. And this thing exploded. And I'm not just talking about the can, I'm talking about the video. Totally just like, I wouldn't even call it UGC. It was just like a world star type video where it was like something crazy happened and you just like shared it, and like Twisted Tea was the thing that like was in it. So like this guy just like turns and says some really awful racist things to this man at a convenience store, and he just happened to be buying a Twisted Tea and just smacks him in the face with it. It exploded. Like again, like the can exploded, the video exploded, like all over the internet. We obviously like it's a weird situation for the brand to be in because obviously you don't want to condone the racist remarks, but you also, it was assault as well. So it was kind of like
problematic things.
Yeah. So here we are on my birthday, I'm on vacation and I'm on phone calls with our CEO and the rest of my team. And we're like, so what do we do? And we're like, do we just let it ride? Like, I mean, we're getting awareness out of it. Like there's no sentiment was neutral for us or positive. Like people were saying like Twisted Tea ends racism or Twisted Tea is the secret weapon. Like Twisted Tea smacks. So like we were benefiting it and we're like, we don't really need to say anything. So we stayed quiet and then like kind of saw how things went out. And then I think we ended up doing a few cryptic tweets that like had total plausible deniability. And then like from there, like it was on fire. Like people were like, what is Twisted Tea? I've never heard of it. And then like they were now learning about it. And then at the time, like our social team is incredible. Like they, at the time, like Slim Jim was really the only one that was taking this like meme approach to the internet. And like Twisted Tea was starting to emulate that, where it was like lo-fi, not super polished like Instagram. It was building really relatable, funny meme content that fit the brand. Like the whole idea of the Twisted Tea brand was to like let loose, have fun. It's not for the like pretty supermodels. It was for the non-pretentious crowd. The meme content emulated it. And while we were getting the exposure, like we really leaned into like the meme content of it. So like we weren't talking about the smack. Like honestly, a lot of people, the meme got so deep that people didn't even know, hadn't even seen the original video. They just were like jumping on the meme culture of it. And it was the number 3 most memed thing of the year on like Google or whatever metric.
That's so crazy. So Twisted Tea's crushing because of this video. What makes you decide to leave that and go to Truly? Are you asked to make that transition? Did you want to? How did that go?
Yeah, so I felt like I needed more experience on the innovation side. And Twisted Tea was like, had a lot of run room with the existing products. Like there was so much to grab with the existing portfolio. So I actually had an in-between role where I was on our like innovation team, and that was like new to world brands. And I worked on like a bunch of different projects with varying success, but like one being, I worked in cannabis. It was all like very like future facing innovation. So we actually launched a cannabis brand up in Canada. It's called Teapot. It's tea with pot in it. Yeah, it's a dad joke. But it's basically twisted tea with weed instead of alcohol. So like that was an example, but it was all like new to world brands. And then was on that for a year and then joined Truly recently. And Truly's in a very different place than it was a few years ago when seltzer was exploding. Like now, like it's a great juxtaposition to look at Truly's like product life cycle or lifespan next to Twisted Teas, because Truly was this thing that it was introduced, I think 7 or 8 years ago, but like had this explosive moment of growth. Like everyone was drinking it, White Claw's drinking it, everyone starts making a seltzer. Like, Frank's Red Hot has a seltzer. Like everyone made a seltzer, and like it was this crazy phenomenon. Like now it just started to plateau, like as things do. It's like you see rapid growth and then things just have to regress to the mean or the median. And so now the challenging part is like you have all the other people falling off, like all the people that entered are basically gone, but it's like kind of just a crapshoot or like a like guerrilla warfare with each other over who's like now the top. White Claw is still number 1. We're number 2. High Noon's in there too, but technically they're spirit based, so like not technically a direct competitor, but I mean definitely a competitor.
Yeah, it seems like it's such a crazy space now. I mean, you see seltzers everywhere, and they've sort of like, it just seems like, as you said, like Frank's Red Hot, it's like any random company is putting out a seltzer now. So how do you maintain being one of the top brands? Oh, there he is.
The star. He's decided to make an appearance. He's doing his yoga moves.
He's like, why aren't we talking about me yet? We're spending too much time
we'll
on
get there. But he knows how to get the attention.
He's like, I know exactly where the middle of the camera is. Let me get right in there.
He is camera trained.
That's so good. Oh my God.
But yeah, so we'll let him, who's going to just croissant.
We'll let him nuzzle it. He's like perfectly center frame too. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we start to talk a little bit about kind of your entrepreneurial journey, and we can get Kirkland into the mix too. So up to this point, I'm assuming you weren't making content on your own. Is that true?
So no. So yeah. So I'm working on Truly. So my big task was like, all right, the industry's flattening or like plateauing, the hard seltzer water. Like how do we stay competitive? So like my day job is, working on innovation, product strategy, trying to win as much share as we can. And kind of like as I was doing this, like, I don't know, I was like getting into my late 20s and I was remembering like the things that I wanted to do. And I think like I had learned a lot at this point from both like my experience at Pepsi and Boston Beer. And I was kind of like, well, when am I going to do the thing I want to do for me? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And then like I like was in like a relationship that we ended up breaking up, and then I was like, I don't even know like what I want to do, or do I even want to live here anymore? And like it was just kind of like a my third quarter life crisis that I've probably had, and ended up focusing on work, moving back into the city. I was like in between leases, and then I was like, you know what? I want to start content. I don't know what that looks like. I'm going to just commit to posting every single day. I don't care if it's a stupid little video or like something a little bit more thought. Like, I'm just going to start doing it. Like, we'll figure it out along the way.
And when was this? This is what, early 2023?
So I moved into my apartment in the Seaport in like February 1st of 2023. So just about a year ago, honestly.
And you had Kirkland at this point.
I had Kirkland. So Kirkland I had got, he's always my dog.
For anyone who doesn't know, Kirkland is Matt's dog, who is the star of the show and the content. So if you haven't seen Matt's content, you'll see Kirkland. He's in the back of the shot if you're watching the video right now. So anyways, you had Kirkland. Yeah. You're moving into your new apartment.
Yeah, so Kirkland was about 6 months. So I moved out of Southie in September. I was living with roommates between September. So at that point, like, he was about 6 months old. I had my whole, soul searching thing for a few months. I moved out to the West Coast with him, just like hopped around Airbnbs, moved back into the city in February, and just started making content. Like, I would take videos of, this was my first apartment. I live in a studio, but like, it was my first apartment of just me. So I like really put effort into designing it how I wanted to design it. And so like, I kind of just posted videos of, me, my apartment, the dog, some one-off things. There was zero strategy except get something out every single day.
And two questions on that is, one, did you have any like filmmaking experience, or did you just say, hey, I can record on my iPhone, like, let's give it a shot?
The latter. Yeah.
Okay. And then my second question is, did you know, like, hey, this is the niche I want to hit in terms of content type, like, or I've seen other people do this, let me try that? Or was it just like, hey, I have this sweet new apartment, like, why don't I document as I set it up?
I mean, I didn't even honestly, like, you won't even find any videos of me setting up the apartment. I didn't even think of that. Like, it was just like, get a video out, even if it's just me doing various things in the apartment. It wasn't even like, oh, I have a sick apartment, let me show it. Like, there was zero strategy except for post every single day. So yeah, like, I didn't have any film experience, but it's a little bit of a lie because I did have like commercial shoot experience. So I had worked on a lot of TV ads, digital ads. So I had been behind the scenes of a lot of shoots. So like, I knew perspective, but I maybe didn't know I knew perspective. And I knew lighting, but I didn't know I knew lighting. I just like could kind of recognize when I was doing something a little bit more right. Over time, I've spent more time in it. Like, I've obviously, like, I didn't have CapCut when I started or any editing app. I edited natively, which I ripped my hair out doing. Like, there. Yeah, it's crazy. And just like, that was part of it. It was like me going posting every single day was like me going to the gym. It was doing the reps. It was, step one, how to set up a shot better. Like, that was maybe one thing. Times of the day lighting, what resonated. Like, I had a small audience, but like, who was that audience and what were they liking? What were they responding to? And what I found successful was like Boston content. Like, I think, if you were to launch a business right now that was a product, you'd probably start where you live selling it. Like, if it's a lemonade stand, you'd go out on your front of your house and you'd sell in front of you. So like, that's kind of the approach that I took. And also, like, Boston does have, relative to a New York, LA, all these major, more creative, I'd say, cities, have less content creators, the less influencers. It's, if you look at the industries here, it's finance, tech, medical. Like, you don't see like advertising. Of course, we have companies that do that, but it's not at the scale as like a New York or LA. So like, there was a deficit of creators. So that's when I started to see initial traction.
What was the conversation with Kirkland like when you said, hey, we're going to start filming here?
I mean, he knew he got treats from it. Like, if he looked at the camera the right way, I was giving him a treat. Like, yeah. And I think too, like, I think I was like training him. Like, I'd say he's totally camera trained. Like, he like knows what to do. And, it is funny. Like, it wasn't the intention, but just like over time, like, he's become trained to. I mean, even look at his positioning. He knows. I know, how does he even know that he's right in frame?
It's unbelievable. Well, you told me such a good story when we met, where, obviously Kirkland's great. He's camera trained. He's prepped for this, but you get a lot of comments from people where they're like, your dog's so funny. And like, you're not. or things like that. And you're like, my dog isn't the one speaking.
My dog can't talk. My dog can't really talk. I think that's a funny thing you see. So like, obviously as I was building this out, like the dog was a hit, and he started to build a community of like his own followers. Sure, I was there, but I was the guy filming. And people would comment things like, if I tried to show myself, they would be like, you're not funny. We don't like you. Your dog's funny. And like, I do this voiceover effect with the dog where I pretend like it's from his point of view. And, you know, it's a voice changer. It's my voice. It's my humor. It's my script that I'm, you know, writing for him. That being said, I'd say the tone in the character is very much him. It's not me. Like his behaviors, it's like almost like if he could talk, this is what it would be. And like, he's extremely stubborn. He's got a Napoleon complex. Like he's really cute and he knows it. He's extremely naive, but he thinks he knows everything. Like, so like these were attributes that I was able to kind of craft into a voice. And honestly, I found it easier to create his brand than my own because, you know, going back to my like profession, like I'm used to taking a brand and, you know, I identifying what it is, what it stands for, what it sounds like, what it looks like. And I could do that with him. With me, I think it's really difficult to create a personal brand because you know yourself best and all of your different interests, and we're multi-dimensional beings, and trying to sum it all up into like a few things that people can like identify you as is extremely difficult.
Yeah, and this is honestly some of the things we were talking about a few weeks ago, and I think this is super interesting. And you're so good at this, is you are one of those content creators who really cares about the analytics and who cares about understanding why things are doing well or why they're not doing well. And maybe that even comes from, as you said, your parents, like your mother has that creative side and your dad has more of the analytical side. To put them together, and you have a nice combo of both of those. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask, and it really applies to what you were just saying, is how important do you think nowadays personal brand is for really anyone? And to add on to that, it's interesting because you're sort of building two personal brands. You're building yours and you're building Kirkland's. So how important do you think all of that really is?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredibly important. And I think it was like holding back my account for a while was like the lack of personal brand and the overall inconsistency, where like I would chase a lot of views because his videos performed. And then like, you know, some of mine performed well too. But what I realized was like creating our each individual personal brands, like you said, and like a cadence of showing them in our joint personal brand. Like they're definitely, we are tied together. But we can have moments where like he's more shown or not more shown. In terms of like how important I think it is, like I think that you have to create a relationship with someone on the internet, like a viewer, and you got like 2 seconds to get their attention and get their time, and then like kind of build a memory structure with them. And like they are unfortunately going to think of you in like a 1 to 2 dimension way, just because like they're scrolling. There's so much content that like you kind of got to know what are the most important things that someone should know about you. Whether you're a fitness account, whether you're a gut health account, like you kind of have to have the thing. And like what I was able to do a little retroactively is be like the guy with the wiener dog. Like people would say that on the street to me. They're like, oh, that's the guy with the wiener dog. Like, so I was like, okay, like, you know, I am a person myself. Right. Like I want to have my own brand, but like, it's true. I am the guy with the wiener dog, and that can be part of it. But like, okay, let's break that up. Who's the guy? Is he a guy in his late 20s that, you know, lives alone, is kind of like, he's living in Boston. He likes to have a good time. He works in the beer industry. He travels a lot. He cares about health and wellness. But he also has a wiener dog. And like, there are ways to now like show the guy in a way that like Kirkland's still a part of. Like if you look at my furniture series, like the whole concept is, you know, building furniture or buying new furniture and seeing if my dog likes it. Like if you're only here for the dog, I have you now because you're interested to see if my dog likes the furniture. But now I'm getting to show myself in what I care about, like home improvement, betterment. So like that was something I kind of retroactively had to create.
Yeah.
And now am executing on.
And that's not something that's easy to do, because what a lot of creators that I see will do is they'll chase the views, and then sort of like you were saying, where you were down this pigeonhole when you were at PepsiCo in the Mountain Dew gaming space, which you may not have hated, but you were pigeonholed there. A lot of creators do this. They say, like, people like the dog views, I'm going to make a bunch of dog videos. People like my dog chewing a toy, all the videos are going to be about my dog chewing a toy. Suddenly you're not even in the content. You're making stuff that you don't feel passionate about.
It's a dog account.
Yeah. And it's just, suddenly you've lost the chance to build something bigger. And I love the way you're doing it, because you're stepping back, and you're only a year into this. You're stepping back and you're saying, okay, listen, I want to showcase my personal brand here too. How can I do it? You're spending some time thinking about it, and you're executing really well. And I think that's impressive. So congrats on doing that.
No, I appreciate it. And I always say, like, I am so critical of it that it's so reassuring when someone, like, with fresh eyes or from a third party point of view is able to, like, make it make sense, because, you know, I'm thinking about this all the time. Like, I am, like, when you, like, love something, like, you're obsessed with it, you want to make it better, you want to figure it out, and you want to, like, just continue to hone it. And, like, that's what I'm trying to do. So it is, like, really reassuring to hear that, like, it is being perceived how I'm trying to craft it.
To give you a little context on, like, the way that I'm coming in and viewing this too, is that a lot of the notoriety I have on the internet right now is because of the duo content I make with my buddy Kevin, where we do singing and everything. And it's really fascinating to try to build a personal brand outside of that, which I have. I make YouTube tutorials. I run this podcast. I used to work for the Red Sox, so that was all part of that. But it's funny when you get some crossover. So for example, you get, like, there's the guy with the wiener dog. I would, on my YouTube tutorials about, like, how to shoot a photo, get people being like, where's your roommate and why aren't you guys singing? And I'm like, it's like, it's how did these people, like, how did the content cross? It's very funny that can happen, but you're doing a nice job where you're building yourself amongst the duo content with Kirkland. It's really great.
Yeah. And I think, like, I was able to interfere at an early time where, like, I really got the kinks out. Like, I mean, I still don't consider myself to be, like, a true macro influence. You know, I'm still kind of in the early stages of my journey. So I felt like it was more of a course correction. So, like, it was easier to kind of impact that, because, like, you know, as you're doing it, like, I'm maybe losing followers that are now like, I don't care about this guy, I just care about the dog. And now I'm out. But I'm gaining followers that are now like, oh, I liked this guy's design taste, and now they're opting in. So, like, that turnover is a little bit more impactful on the scale of where my total following is, versus when, like, you become super known, like you were, like, I mean, you're freaking, we're not even talking the same boat.
I mean, that's all timing. We were in there early. That's the only reason. Like,
yeah, but, like, 1 million people knowing you for singing, like, that is, like, that's impressive.
It's,
like,
crazy. Yeah.
So yeah, like, I think, you know, you're right. Like, following is a vanity metric too. And, like, you know, you want to make sure that, like, views are there too, but, like, there still is an important element of what your following count is. Like, there are brand people that are a little bit more ignorant to, like, what social stats matter. And the only thing they're looking for is following, and not, like, reach and engagement and growth. So yeah, so I think I was able to impact it. I don't think I have it cracked. I don't think I have it figured out. I think I'm just always trying to learn. And going back to your question about, like, the importance of personal branding, like, there was one point I did want to hit on. It's funny when you ask, like, Gen Z what their their dream job is, and I don't know what the exact percentage is, but an extremely high percentage of them say content creator. And you're like, well, obviously not everyone can be content creators. However, you're seeing someone that is a doctor that's also a content creator, or they're a teacher and they're a content creator. And, you know, like, when people say the influencer creator space is oversaturated, like, it's actually really not. Like, that's the whole point of the niches, is you're just getting more people representing a vast array of experiences. And I think in the future, there's going to be a world where everyone is a content creator to some extent. I mean, we already are. Most people have social media accounts, maybe to different scales, but, like, that personal branding is what's going to identify you online. It's not just going to be, like, random pictures you take. It's going to be like, hey, I'm a med student from Chicago, and this is my personal brand, and I create content vlogging my life in case you're someone from the Midwest that is interested in becoming, a doctor. Like there are so many needs out there that are still unmet by current like creators, and there are so many interests that are yet to be shown and represented that it's only going to continue. And so when I was like also figuring this out, I'm like, why do people care about what I'm posting? Like maybe there's someone that's trying to figure out what their career path is, and seeing me do my job is maybe something that's interesting to them that they want to learn more about. So
yeah, there's a level of educating that all of this content does. For example, doctors or teachers or you doing what you're doing, there's a level of like, hey, this is how you build a brand, or this is how you create content, or this is more specifically how you decorate your bedroom. Like there's a level of education that you're providing people that's valuable on top of just the entertainment. So I think that's all a part of it too.
You hit on it, like value proposition, and like what I define the values as are education, entertainment, a laugh, just something to get you through while you're sitting on the train, like inspiration, if you're just, whether that's a DIY inspiration or job inspiration, like there are different ways to provide value to the audience. And when you're doing that, you're typically doing it right. So like, it's not me showing you my day because I'm a narcissist that like thinks everyone cares what my every move is. It's me educating you what my occupation is and what a day like that looks like, so that you could maybe, pursue that. Or maybe you want to feel fulfilled in what you're doing and being like, that's not for me. Like it's just education. Like you said, like it's again, providing value to the audience, understanding what they're valuing and continuing to deliver on that. And I think that's the same thing that a business brand does. They know what their promise is to a group of consumers, and they just continue to do that.
One thing I do want to talk about, and it's a factor in all of this, is monetization. And it's not necessarily some people go into this with the goal to, I want to make money or I want to make a job out of this. Some people have other goals, but it does become a factor when you start to gain a following like you have. When did that start, and what kinds of monetization are you looking at? Is it things like the TikTok creativity beta program where you can see money from streaming, or is it things like brand deals or subscriptions? Like, what does that world look like to you?
Yeah. So I actually started monetizing pretty quickly, and it was inbound. Like I think when I got started, I put an email in my account, and not like expecting brand deals to come through, but like a lot of maybe like local events, like, hey, again, like Boston doesn't have a ton of creators. So if there was an event happening and they were just trying to get like word out, like I would get invitations to that. But then I did start to get some brands come through, super low scale, low budget, but big brands. And it was mostly UGC. Like they were like, you don't have to post it, just make us the video. Like they were recognizing that I had some like production capability.
Yeah. Which goes a long way for these brands. And this is all you negotiating prices, talking to them, managing emails.
Yeah, I'd say at the beginning, but I wouldn't say there was like much behind it. I think I was like just happy that someone was looking to pay real money. So I started taking those on, but like my strategy was like, okay, well, continue to grow, continue to get these under my belt on my resume, build a portfolio of partners that I've worked with, get the kinks out, like find out what works, what doesn't when it comes to advertising, and putting sponsored content on my page. And then just keep snowballing, keep it going from there. And like, I'd say the first 5 months, like it was small here and there. Once had some big ones that were like, ooh, nice, that like paid rent for a month. But like those were a dime a dozen, or like not a dime. They weren't that frequent. And so then I'd say in September, it really started to accelerate.
And was this in correspondence with suddenly a couple of videos went viral, or did like that was the catalyst there?
Yeah. So I think like, yeah, that's a good point to bring up too, is like when you're posting content, like not every video is going to go viral, but you in the same way are building a portfolio of sponsored content. You're building a portfolio of videos that like when one goes viral, then someone comes and opts into your page to check out more. And then like it's a rising tide raises all ships situation where
me and Kevin say that all the time.
There you go. Like you now have every video going not viral, but getting a ton more views because like you got the exposure from one. And that's the importance of like the posting every day. Like you don't want one to go viral, someone come in, you got no videos, and why would they follow you? Like, and that's where your personal branding comes in. So like, even if like you're maybe not seeing success at first, like think the long game, because like maybe if you're, say, a finance account giving finance tips, your first 10 videos don't do anything, your 11th does, and now they're coming in and all of your videos are going up because they want to learn more about finance. So like I saw same trend on my page, just kept posting, started to hone it in a little bit more. The brand deal started coming, started growing. And then it got to a point like where, you know, it was really good money. Like, and I think that when I remember before I was a creator, I was like, how much like money is there really in this? But then you look at where people are spending more of their time and attention, and it's on their phone and it's not on TV anymore. And I'm a marketer and I'm the one buying these ads and buying like the TV commercials and the social media spots. Than anyone. And then I'm like, wait, no, they're not kidding. Like this isn't just phony. Like there's money in this. And then I was starting to see it. So, you know, that's when the negotiation came on. I think for a while, like going back to the entrepreneur like itch, like I was itching it like by negotiating, and I was like, I got to do everything. I got to do the negotiation. I got to do the everything. And then it got to a point where like I'm burning myself out. Like I'm working 9 to 5. I'm coming home and continuing to work till I'm sleeping. I think I'm negotiating well. I'm not negotiating as well as I could be. And I finally made the decision to take on management, which
congrats,
was,
that's very exciting.
Thank you. Yeah. And it was a connection that I had in the brand world. It was someone that I had worked with on the brand side who represents creators. So like it was someone I could trust, and, you know, had worked with, so knew I already got along with. And, you know, he's been a huge help. He's taking all the communications, he's paying for himself and what he's negotiating up, like the rates, like it's a commission based, but he's covering his commission and what I would have negotiated. And it allows me to continue to do my day job and take more steps back and re-strategize and come up with more creative ideas and just do the creator thing better. And I think I had to like maybe be a little less stubborn and controlling to like allow for that to happen.
Well, that's a huge lesson, is the ability to step back and delegate duties. Like, I think that's a lesson that a lot of entrepreneurs coming up have a hard time with. It's like, well, the whole time I've been finding success by doing it all myself, shooting, scripting, editing, and then managing. But if you can pass something off, that'll allow you to elevate other things. And I wanted to ask about like what have been, because it seems like maybe that was one of the early growing pains in all this. Have there been any other specific ones where you've thought like, this is a struggle and maybe you're still dealing with it or you've solved it? Like what have some of those been?
I'd say so, yeah. So I'd say like managing everything, like thinking that I had to do it all, trying to do everything. Like, so like most of my money was from brand deals, but then I'm like, I got to do affiliate links and I got to do like ad revenue. But like, I was like, no, focus on the big things, like the affiliate stuff. It's nice to have. You could pop off and like, you know, you see like this commission's paying out real money, but it's not super consistent in my experience. And
there's a feeling, and tell me if you've had this feeling where it's like you see a video pop up where someone's doing something and you're like, oh my God, I should be doing that. And then your head starts spinning of like, why haven't I, you know, it's you can't do it all. You just can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a factor. And then like, I think like one thing I'm still struggling with is like, I don't need to post every single day anymore. Cause like, I don't need the learnings as much. I'd rather take a step back, build higher quality videos that are going to work harder for me versus like rushing to get something out the door. So that's still something that I struggle with. And I think honestly, I'd say, you know, when you're on social media and you're getting likes, like there's a dopamine response, like you are getting yourself addicted literally to like a like and a dopamine thing. So part of it's like, okay, I just need to step away from my phone altogether and focus on creating. Like, I think so. Like, it's kind of, I don't know if Pavlov dog is the right like thing, but like I'm salivating for more because like
it's fitting so for obsessed. Your brand. So we'll take it.
There you go. Exactly. So I think like, you know, really prioritizing quality over quantity now is something I'm working through. Continuing to execute on things, like trying not to run after trends is still something like, because then there are times where I do like do a trend and it does well. And then there are times I do a trend and it doesn't do well. So it's like, that's,
well, you and Casey just crushed that. We live in the Seaport video.
Yeah. That was like a fun one that I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, and then I think that was also a good example of like a potential personal brand risk, not in the sense that like I was playing a character in that video, but I didn't know that if everyone would perceive it that way, where like I've gotten a ton of comments where people are like, your parents bankroll everything and like you like don't pay for anything. Like, my bed is touching my couch. I have the smallest studio apartment in the Seaport that I got off cycle lease. Like I wish if my parents were paying for it, and this sounds bratty, like it would be a better place.
Yeah.
Like,
well, let's not forget, you're also working your off. So you're like, you're living in a shoebox, but you're grinding it out for it. You're in a nice location, but you're putting in the work. So it's not like,
and the reason I live here
no matter what
is because it's close to work, so that when I have the dog, I'm able to like pop back for lunch if I need to. So that saves me money on like pet care. Like I actually did a big cost benefit analysis, and like, I have a gym in my building, so I didn't need to pay for a gym when I first moved in. Like, so I actually broke it down, and it was the financially responsible thing to do.
Yeah.
But like, and then you're seeing me working 2 jobs and me showing you ads, but like still, that was like kind of a risk to like the personal brand. But it was received the way, like, I think I was just being sensitive. And I think it was received correctly. And it was an example of jumping on a trend that applied to my niche and ended up really paying off, and I think overall being a funny video. So
I have a couple more things, and again, I had a whole slew of questions, but you've just been so great on this. But I want to end on a couple. I have one kind of fun rapid fire round where I'm going to fire off just like this or that, and you got to hit me back with the answer, and then I'm going to have one final question for you. All right, so here's the rapid fire: Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Love is Blind or The Bachelor?
Oh, my ex is on The Bachelor right now. Love is Blind.
We need to talk about that shortly. I saw that video. We will talk about it. 9 to 5 or 5 to 9?
5 to 9.
Night out on the town or relaxing at home?
Recently relaxing at home, but historically night out on the town. But I'd say latest 4 weeks at home.
Okay. Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube?
Instagram. Can I elaborate?
Sure.
Yeah, so I think like TikTok is sketchy sometimes. You never know what their like objective is.
Yep.
I've found that Instagram has been the most consistent for me, and like I think the most where my audience is. I'm trying to break into YouTube, and that's a Rubik's Cube. So I'm still working through.
YouTube's a whole different beast, but I would agree with you. I think Instagram's got the best networking too, the best communication. It's really good for all those things. Anyways, it's your game. Morning or night?
Night.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
And finally, Costco or BJ's?
Costco, of course. I got Kirkland.
A couple of those were easy for you.
Those were layups. Though I do want to revise. It's Pepsi, but I like Diet Coke better. So
okay, that's fair. That's fair. But we do have to. This is going to come out, and it's. I mean, that video about your ex is blowing up right now. This is going to come out like when that's not new news.
I haven't even checked my phone, but I don't want to know where it's at.
So I saw that pop up, and I was like, wait, is this a joke or is he kidding? And then there's like detectives in the comments.
Oh yeah, they know everything.
They know. They found it all. So then I'm down the rabbit hole. I'm like, this is insane, man. That's crazy. Are you guys like in a good...
We're in a great spot. Okay. It was a long time ago. Well, not really, but like it was an ex of a few years ago that we have totally resettled things.
Good.
So yeah, it was definitely playful. We don't have a toxic relationship. I'd say like we were both pretty young at the time, and now we've both matured into kind of different people, so we're able to have like a fun relationship. I asked her if I could post it before. She laughed at it. She liked it. So yeah, we're in a good spot. Exciting to see her on the show. She's done really great on it. So just like really, really happy to see her there. And
that's so funny, and that's amazing. When I saw the video earlier, it was like 600,000 views or something crazy.
Yeah, so it's crazy what the internet will take. But yeah, I mean these sleuths, like they know everything. Like,
dude, what? It's insane.
No, it is. And then they're like, "We've heard about you," and I'm like, they're like, "You're a Weiner boy."
Someone said that, and then that video popped up on my feed. I'm like, this algorithm's too good here.
This is insane. TikTok will pull all the receipts. So yeah, that's a funny little thing, But
anyways, let me give you my last question, and then
can I grab Kirkland while we do it? I feel
please,
like he hasn't been in at all.
He needs to be.
Right,
we haven't had enough Kirklands.
Yeah, one sec.
Oh my God, look at him! What's up, buddy?
All right.
What's going on, bud?
His Red Sox baseball bat that
it's hanging on by a thread.
Every toy that he has. He's vicious.
Oh my God, he's such a legend. Kirkland, what's going on,
good
buddy?
Boy. Ready? Who's that?
Hey, bud.
Say hi.
Hi. my yellow lab would be so excited and jealous that I'm talking to another dog.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you can't cheat, but
so here's my question for the both of you, and you know, we can have you both respond if you want. But the question is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who is like feeling maybe stuck in their life in a job they don't love, but they know they have a passion that they want to pursue, what would your advice be to them?
I'd say that I'd love to say just try something new and do it, but I know the reality of how unhelpful that can be. So I would say try to do one thing differently over time. Like maybe you do one thing in your routine differently every day and see where it takes you. I'd also say like nothing's permanent. So like if you're in a bad spot right now, like that's not likely how you'll stay, and like take the leap of faith if you feel comfortable doing it. But obviously if you're in a spot where you don't feel like you could, try just building one block at a time and seeing where it takes you. Mine was posting one TikTok a day. And when you do something consistently over time, you know, you can build a whole building out of it. So I'd say just try something new if you're scared to take like a big leap.
I love it, man. That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Let me know, can you just say like your social links where people can find you?
Yep. So I am the Matty Rossi with a Y, not an I, across all platforms. So YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, X, sorry, not Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Reddit.
Everywhere. I love it. Man.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thank you. And thank you, Kirkland, for coming on. This was fantastic. And we'll have to get you back for another one.
Yeah, no, would love to, Kellan. It was great to see you again. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Thank you.